Am I the idiot for getting my aunt and uncle kicked out of their house for not letting my husband and I sleep together? I, 27, male, and am married to a man, 28, male. He is the love of my life. I had only ever dated women before him, but when I met him I realized I was bi, and we fell in love. We got married in the fall of 2018, so it's been almost 4 years. We now live in Vermont. My whole family is from a small town in Texas, a super conservative Catholic area. I was raised there, but Dad got a job in NYC when I was 15. The culture shock was difficult. We went from living in rural Texas to living in an apartment in Manhattan. My parents didn't sell our house in TX. They allowed our aunt and uncle, who just had their third child, to move in while charging them a small rent. In college, when I came out as bi, my brother and dad were very supportive. My mom needed some time to accept. The rest of my family reacted poorly at first but came around. During visits, we stayed with my aunt and uncle at my old house, but because we weren't married, we weren't allowed to share a bed. We didn't argue. We both would rather make peace. Visiting, since instead of staying with my aunt and uncle, we would rent a motel room. During COVID, we did not visit them. But this summer, my parents and bro decided to go visit my hometown again for 2 weeks and invited my husband and I. I wanted a motel again, but my aunt and uncle insisted my brother, husband, and I stay with them. The first night sleeping situation was being discussed after my cousins went to bed. My aunt and uncle wanted me and bro to take the spare bedroom, husband on the couch. All three of us took issue with that. They snapped that we were not really married because we were gay, and that they had children in the house. They said that it would be a bad influence on their kids. This hurt my husband's feelings, and he started crying and ran out of the room. When my husband ran out, my uncle had the audacity to start laughing. That's when I saw red. I started cussing them out so loudly that my young cousins came to investigate. I told them that if they didn't apologize to my husband immediately, then I was going to tell my dad what just happened, and I was going to make sure to have them kicked out of the house that was still in my parents' name. My bro seconded everything that I was saying. They started backtracking and saying that we were still welcome in their house, but that we had to follow their rules. I responded that it wasn't really their house. I told them they were going to be homeless if I had my way. The kids started crying cause they heard me say they were all going to be homeless. So we left. My husband was on the porch crying. I promised him that I would never subject him to that again. I told Dad what happens. To say that my dad was angry would be an understatement. He served them a notice of eviction for 60 days. I have been getting calls and texts and Facebook messages from my family calling me off. I want to know, am I an idiot for allowing my young cousins to end up homeless? Is it fair that they have to pay for what my aunt and uncle said to me and my husband? Update, hey y'all, my husband and I want to thank everyone for the overwhelming amount of support and love. We have updates to people asking where my mom is in all of this. She's now supportive of my husband and I's relationship. She agrees that I gave aunt and uncle a chance to apologize and they didn't. I could tell my dad was not telling me the whole story about the eviction, so I pressed my mom and found out the truth 3 days ago. I've been having a hard time with it. The day I told him, my dad reached out to my aunt and uncle, and not only did they show no remorse, they said that they didn't want their kids to be FGOTs because of us. Yeah, they really said that. He asked why they would invite us to stay with them if this is how they truly felt. This is where it gets bad. To them, it's one thing if we are living in Vermont being gay. It's another thing if we visit my hometown throwing our lifestyle in everyone's faces by shacking up at the motel. The local motel owner, whose family owns it and is a childhood friend of my mom's, gossiped about us every time we were there. She was nice to our face, but behind our backs, a different story. Because everyone knows each other, we would become the talk of the town when we stayed there, and we had no idea. We wouldn't have tolerated it if we had. We never stayed long for visits because we could sense something was off, but pushed the feeling aside because to our faces they were nice. These are people that know me, that claim to love me. Mom said my aunt and uncle were trying to save face with the rest of the town and try to control our behavior at the same time while we were there. Before evicting, my dad asked Mom to reach out to this gossiping friend. According to the friend, and you were a major part of the poop talk. No one ever said anything to my face. I feel so disgusted and betrayed and naive. This enraged my dad, so he decided to evict them. He told them that they can freeload somewhere else and he will never accept anyone as family that would treat his sons that way. Mom says he's gone no contact with them. Mom told me that he thinks of my brother, husband, and I as his pride and joy. I feel so proud that I have a dad like him. I mentioned that he is my hero. This is just the icing on the cake. He has always been my #1 supporter, and he told me when I came out as bi that he would always have my back. He kept that promise. My dad doesn't know he's internet famous. I still don't know how to break it to him, lol. He's a humble guy. Dad doesn't use social media, so we're safe for now. My bro knows about this post and we've been trying to figure out a plan of action. We've been contacted by journalists. We've gotten so many loving messages. But at the end of the day, I'm just an average guy still trying to process the fact that I got betrayed on a scale that I can't even comprehend. For those saying we are off for letting my cousins go homeless, I can confidently say now that they only have their parents to thank for that. Everyone sucks here. Yes, what they did was wrong, but they have that right. You were their guest and needed to adhere to the rules of their house. Also, your dad sounds like a real piece of work, not an idiot. They insisted a hotel was not needed and then decided to disregard your marriage. The whole not married so separate rooms thing was clearly an excuse before as well. It's entirely your father's decision who to let the house to, and you're within your rights to tell him what happened. Just because he reacted as you expected him to doesn't make you an idiot. Am I the idiot for leaving my disabled boyfriend? I, female 25, have been with my boyfriend, male 25, since we were 19. When we were 23, he was injured in a skiing accident. His injuries were so severe that he was paralyzed from the neck down, and he has been semi-comatose ever since. Other than that, he can do very little. He is no longer there. His body is essentially functioning on autopilot. There are more medical issues, but I do not want to divulge his private information any more than I have to. We were planning to get married. I still love him very much. Since his accident, he has lived at the hospital and then with his parents. We lived together, but our 5th floor apartment was not suitable for his needs, and I work too much to care for him. His parents live 90 minutes out from our city. I visit 4 to 5 times a week, sometimes more if I can. It's been a point of contention between his mother and myself that I do not visit every day. I literally cannot do this with the hours I work, and I am scared I will get in a road traffic accident driving in the dark and icy conditions. We live in a very snowy, icy state. His family basically lives on a mountain and runs a skiing resort, so the roads are terrifying. I work in a small and intensely competitive field. The salary I am on right now is fine for the city I live in, a major US city, but I could be earning almost double if I relocate. I've been offered an amazing job across the country. I really want to take it. When I told his mother about how I was considering this job, she lost it. She told me I was an awful person to consider moving away from him. She said I was betraying him by abandoning him and moving on. I told her that I couldn't just stop living because of what happened. She started screaming at me. I am empathetic because I understand that she feels as though the world is moving on without him. I feel that way too. I am very conflicted. I am unsure if it is wrong to do this. Me and my boyfriend had promised we would marry each other. I do feel like I am abandoning him. Would I be the idiot for taking the job? Update. I just would like to update anyone who left a kind comment and might stumble upon the update. That post and the comments and chats I received have pushed me to accept the job. I moved cities on January 9th, and I started my job on January 16th. This is all happening very quickly, but I have realized that I do need to put myself first, and I am not an idiot for living my life, despite it being incredibly painful. My boyfriend's mother does not agree. She is no longer speaking to me. I am not allowed to see my boyfriend, who I guess is no longer my boyfriend and hasn't been for 2 years. I knew this would happen, so I said goodbye to him before I told her. I do not want to repeat what she said to me, however it was awful. She says I ruined Christmas because I made the decision on the 23rd, but she knew this was possible and it was a time-sensitive offer. As one commenter said, it was never going to be a good time to do this. On the plus side, her hating me has made it so that I have to leave for this job. I have no ties here anymore. I may be the idiot in her eyes, but this is what I need. I am having fleeting moments of regret, but my family and therapist have said that in the 5 days since making this decision, I seem lighter. I am excited for this new chapter. Thank you again for the kind comments. You're an idiot. You left your disabled partner for a paycheck. It's as simple as that. Now you're looking for validation for your materialistic preferences. There's nothing wrong with that, but own who you are, which is an idiot. Not an idiot. You did the right thing. She is lashing out, not because of what you did, but because of how unfair life is. Whether you choose to forgive or not, she will need more time. Go, live your life. Go places and have adventures. I wish you a future love when you're ready, if that's your want. You know that was what he would have wanted for you, if he could make his wishes known. Was she selfish for leaving her boyfriend? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for not wanting to get rid of my dog for my pregnant sister? So my, male 15, dad died not that long ago. It'll be 6 months next week. My mom moved us out of our house cause she said it hurt her too much to be there, and now we're living in this new house for 2 months now and I hate it. Last month my 20-year sister told us she's pregnant, so now her and my mom are getting ready for a baby in the house. TBH, I'm not really excited like them, but I thought whatever. Until yesterday, my sister told me I have to get rid of my dog before the baby comes. I asked her why, and she said because dogs are bad for pregnant women and newborns babies because they carry germs and parasites. I told her that's not true. I always bathe my dog. He has all his shots and we take him to the vet regularly. He's also been around lots of babies before and he's super friendly to them, so he can't be a danger to her baby. My sister got mad, so she got my mom involved. She told my mom I was being a brat and that I don't care that I'm poisoning her baby. I told my mom I didn't want to get rid of my dog. My dad bought him for me as a puppy on my 9th birthday. There's been lots of changes these months. Losing my dad, us moving, and now getting ready for a new baby. My dog is the last connection to my dad. My mom is not home much, neither is my sister, so I feel like all I have is my dog. I explained to my mom why I don't want to get rid of him. She said she understands he's important to me, but I need to stop thinking about myself and consider my baby niece or nephew. I said I don't even believe my dog is bad for my sister's pregnancy. She never liked him since dad bought him, and I feel like she's using this to get him out of our house. My mom said she isn't gonna force me to get rid of him and she'll leave it up to me. My sister's been mad at me since and keeps making comments about how she hopes me taking my sweet time deciding what to do won't damage her baby. They both expect me to do the right thing, but I don't know if I want to. Does that make me bad? Am I an idiot because I want to keep my dog? To note, my dog avoids my sister because she treats him badly if he's close, so it's not like he'll be all over her. Update. I read lots of people's comments to this and I was really happy to know that I wasn't hurting my sister or her baby by having my dog around. A lot of you sent me some good info. I decided to show what some of you commented to my mom, and sis as proof that my dog isn't bad since she was so worried. Also told my mom I'm not gonna get rid of my dog because he means too much to me and that would hurt him too. My mom agreed with me more after showing her the info and said my dog doesn't have to go anywhere. My sister seemed more mad after, not just because of the info but because I told a bunch of strangers our business. She didn't see the post though. My sister still kept pushing to get rid of him because she doesn't want to be around him while she's living there. My mom and her ended up having a big fight over it. There was lots of yelling and arguing for days until finally my sister said she's leaving unless we get rid of him. She said it like a threat, I guess, because she thought that would make my mom make me give him away. My mom didn't want her to leave, but that's what she ended up doing because I wouldn't give up my dog. For months it's been like this. She moved in with one of her best friends, I think, but she doesn't want to talk to my mom at all. For a long time my mom was even more sad, and that actually made me start to feel guilty again because it seemed like this was all my fault. Things weren't good for a while. My mom was talking to me less and felt like we were strangers living together instead of family. But she said it wasn't my fault what happened, so it's not that she was mad at me for my sister leaving. She was just sad about everything, and that made her not talk or be around me. Finally, after months, mom and I are talking better again and she's actually spending a little more time with me. It's still not the same anymore though. My sister still hasn't called us and Ike when she's due, but it should be really soon. Everything didn't happen the way I hoped it would, but I'm happy to still have my dog around. He helped me deal with everything. Thank you everyone for showing me I made the right decision keeping him. You guys made it easier to give them all this info about how wrong my sister was about dogs affecting pregnancy, and showed me I wasn't doing anything bad for wanting to keep the last connection I have to my dad. He's still here by my side and I'm grateful for all the support. You're an idiot. A dog's life is worth less than a human life, and there's no two ways about it. You are being an awful person for upsetting a pregnant woman. You could be the reason she has a miscarriage. Your dad died and that's awful, but that doesn't mean the world revolves around you. Not an idiot. I'm so happy you didn't give up the dog. As someone who has 2 kids so far, and dogs, they are not a danger to pregnant women or babies if handled correctly. She just wanted an excuse to get rid of the dog, and she's throwing a tantrum because she didn't get her way. AITA for calling the police on my fiance. Last night my male 35, fiance, female 38, left in the evening to give a friend's son a ride back to his home. She implied she'd be home before 9. She left at around 7:45. 10:15 rolled around and she still wasn't home. I texted and she apologized to me, saying that her friend's son was actually in the next town over, maybe 30 minutes away, and she was coming home now. 11:45 rolled around and she still hadn't come home, so I called her to no answer, texted her to no response. I was getting very upset. 12:30 rolled around and still no response and no answer to my phone calls. I was extremely angry. 1:30 rolled around and my anger had completely transformed into worry. Not answering my calls and texts not read. Around 1:45 I called the police. I have always heard that the first 24 hours of someone being missing is the most important, so I didn't want to delay. I asked them to let me know if there had been any traffic accidents involving her car, and the operator told me that they would put out the word and send some cops to check along the route she would travel. I called all the hospitals in the area to check if she had been checked in, and I waited outside watching the road for her car for 3 hours, partially because I didn't want the kids to hear me on the phone with hospitals, and secondly because I was sick with worry. At 7 a.m. she came home. She apologized for being out and said she had no excuse. She was driving home and felt tired, like she was falling asleep at the wheel, so she pulled over to the side of the road to sleep. When she did that, she found that her brand new phone had stopped working. She says she napped anyway because it was the responsible thing to do, and then came home at 7 a.m. to bring the kids to school and get to work on time. I immediately called the police and told them that she had come home safely and gave them the case number and told them to stop searching, which they did. My fiance brought the kids to school and left for work. I set out to start cleaning. Cleaning distressed me sometimes, and I got a call from a policeman asking where she worked. I told him, and asked why, and I was informed that it was their policy to check on the person's wellness after a missing person is found. I asked them to not go by her work but to give her a call instead. He said he couldn't promise. My fiance is relatively new to her job. A police officer showed up and asked to speak with her. She is now enraged at me for calling the police and sending a cop to her work and making her look bad. She is saying I overreacted and that she wasn't missing and that I was punishing her for doing the responsible thing and not driving while drowsy. She is saying that she is never going to leave the house again except for work, because she is afraid I'm going to call the cops on her again. So did I overreact? Should I have waited 2 days like she suggests? Update. First of all, thank you to those of you who offered kind words and solid advice. This update is likely to disappoint some of you, as it does me. My fiancé and I have been fighting solidly since before I posted my last thread. It's been exhausting. I called her out on her obvious lie and she fumed at how awful I was for calling her a liar. From then on it was as if she was falling down a smooth well, desperately clawing and grabbing at anything she could to blame me for as she went deeper and deeper. I'm not a perfect man, but in this particular situation, I was an angel, so she had nothing to grab onto. I did a lot of soul searching, and I made a call that most of you will hate. I decided to bury the hatchet. I love her very, very dearly. I had no proof of a lie, and I wasn't too concerned about what she was really up to anyway. Our relationship is open, so even if she fricked around, I didn't care much. She still fought with me though. The fight continued to the point where she broke up with me, but not really, which was a common tactic she had used before. I called her on it and she still fought with me. I asked for space for a night so I could sleep off the exhaustion, and she got upset and told me I was neglectful and selfish for not going to her and making up in person. I am stupid. I am aware of it. Even through all of this, I was apparently able to believe that what she said in emotion wasn't really her talking. Today I was having lunch. Money has been tight lately, for some reason, weird. So I flipped through my wallet to find my credit card, which was missing. Well, you see where this goes. She had stolen it. She cited our desire to join lives together and merge finances, and that when I lent her my wallet once, she took it so she wouldn't have to bother me by asking again. This credit card is mine, under my name and for emergencies only. She was using it for the last month and a half. Well, she has been decent enough to pay back some of it. There was still a $1,500 balance on it that hasn't been paid. She says that it's here just as much as mine and resents me calling her a thief. A lot of the uses were spent at ATMs for cash withdrawals and some interesting ones at the casino. Those of you who guessed gambling were probably right on the money. At that point, I admit I lost it. I am a very calm person, but there was only so much denial of reality that I could take. It's still blurry, but I said a lot of horrible things to her and am in the process of evicting her from my life. I am canceling everything that is in my name that she is a part of, including the new phone line, canceling her car insurance and reclaiming my car that I gave her, and she has trashed. Apparently I can handle lies, cheating and secrets, but who knew theft was my line? Learning experience. Now thinking back, I can identify lots of sketchy poop that my love goggles blinded me to, but there's a pretty strict character limit. Not the idiot. You dodge a bullet. It could have been way worse, especially with gambling addicts. Better check your accounts more frequently and make sure she cannot touch anything. She's an extraordinarily toxic person. Citing a desire of merging finance to take the card had me flabbergasted. Like, this is not how teamwork works. Not the idiot. Glad you have some sort of closure, bud, and an outcome that gives you a fresh start and move on to better things. Or carrying on after you buried the hatchet, proved her toxicity, and that would have been no good for you going forward. I wish you all the best. Now, for the next story. AITA for refusing to invite my fiancé's ex to our wedding. So my fiancé and I were working on the list of people that we are inviting to our wedding next year, and he wants to invite one of his ex-girlfriends, who he is still friends with. I am not down with that. I said I don't want to get married in front of the girl who was his GF before me and with whom he had his longest relationship. They were together for 6 years. We have been together for 1. I have met the girl a couple of times. We are civil and I know she is engaged, so this is not about jealousy. The idea just feels really weird and uncomfortable to me. He said that she is part of his friend group and he cannot invite all of their friends and leave her out. He said that she is a part of his life as his friend before and after she was his girlfriend. He lived with her in college and she paid for everything because he was broke from supporting his siblings. He said she does not need to be seated anywhere near the altar where I can see her, but he wants her to be there. Am I the idiot? Edit. I just want to clarify that she did not pay his tuition fees. She paid for their apartment, bills, and food. And that is a lot, and I'm glad she was there for him when he needed help. Update. So it's been over a month since I first posted, and I thought that I'd post a last update for you guys as part of closing this chapter of my life. Short story, my fiancé and I have broken up. During pre-marriage counseling, he realized that he still loves his ex. She also broke off her own engagement for him. They are now back together. I took to heart 3 things from the replies in my original thread. Those who said I was. You're the idiot told me not to look at my fiancé's ex as his ex but as his friend. Those who said I was. Not the idiot advised that I should talk to my fiancé about my insecurities. Some suggested pre-marriage counseling. So I swallowed my pride and told my then fiancé that his ex is welcome in our wedding because she is his friend. I also told him of my insecurities and asked if we could go to pre-marriage counseling. He was supportive and agreed. After our second meeting with our counselor, my ex-fiancé talked to me. He said that counseling has made him realize that he is still in love with his ex. I was in total shock because he has always been the perfect boyfriend. I never felt like I was competing with anyone for him. He said he never meant to hurt me and that he did love me, but he could not marry me knowing that part of him will always belong to someone else. It's been a few weeks since we broke up and surprisingly I have been holding up well. It hurts because I miss him, but I just tell myself that he's not the right one for me. I'm 23. I have my whole life ahead of me and it's an exciting new adventure to try to find the right person. My ex-fiancé and I are civil. He is a good guy and I appreciate our time together, though it sucks that it has ended. From what I know, he told his ex that he still loves her, and I guess she felt the same way because she also broke off her engagement to give their relationship another try. Good luck to them. Not the idiot. Can I just say that you're being super healthy about this? And so is your ex. Super proud of you, and I don't know you. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have married my now ex-husband at the age of 22 because I definitely had someone else on my mind. Not the idiot. Sorry for the loss, but congratulations are starting a new chapter in your life. That being said, do not take him back in 6 months when he realizes that the same issues that broke them up in the first place are still issues. Now I suggest starting this new chapter by planning a nice vacation somewhere beautiful. Now, for the next story. AITA for kicking my sister out of my family gathering after a comment about my adopted son. Some feel I, male 32, should have handled the situation, but I don't see how I'm wrong. Me and my sister, 37F, are not as close as we used to be because of some messed up stuff that happened years ago. I had my son Jesse, 9, pretty young. Months after that, to my surprise, my ex was pregnant again. Only I knew it wasn't me because having an infant to take care of and provide for left me with zero interest in sex. And we found out it was my sister's fiancé ex now that she was seeing behind our backs. It hurts. Worst pain ever, but for my son's sake I tried to get past it. I come from a family of half-sibs too, so I wanted my son to be close to his half-brother, Keith. Surprise. Not only were they, my ex and my sister's ex, horrible lying cheaters, but also terrible parents. Both got hooked on drugs, only escalated from there. He got locked up when Keith was 3. This particular issue with my sister happened a couple years ago. My ex got sick. She was scared of Keith ending up in foster care like her, and I didn't want that for him either. I illegally adopted him before she passed when he was 6. Not everyone in my family was on board at first, but he's the kind of kid that is hard not to love, so they warmed up to him. My sister never did. She hated that I brought the son of her ex-fiancé into my family, and I understood why it was painful, but Keith's and Jesse's best interests were my main priority. That's how we drifted apart. Last weekend was my birthday and I had a small barbecue at my place. My parents have tried hard to mend things between us, so they convinced me to let her come too so we can chat. I thought that meant she was cool with Keith because obviously the 3 of us are a package deal. I asked my parents how she would feel about Keith. They said not to worry about it. Again, I took it as she came around. Only she wasn't told he would also be present. But how could he not be? He lives there. My sister got there and she was mad when she saw him. She very specifically said, "I thought this was family only, what's he doing here?" Loud enough where he could have easily heard, but thankfully he was playing with his brother. My sister was pissed because my parents told her Keith wouldn't be around. And I got pissed when she told me she didn't want him here, expecting me to do something about it. So I just told her to leave, and she's not welcome here then. There was some back and forth from her and my parents. I didn't want that kind of talk around my son, so I still made her leave. My mom seems to think I was a huge idiot for kicking her out of my party instead of trying to work things out. Like they take Keith somewhere out of sight while me and her talk. But to me, what's the point of us working it out if that's how she still feels toward my son? Well, this is still causing some conflict since I escalated the feud by making her leave instead of actually talking to her. Am I the idiot? Update. Okay, I actually wasn't going to add anything, but figured since conflict has somewhat resolved, why not? This issue was mostly on my parents, and I decided to contact my sister to discuss what to do with them. It was a very tense conversation. Really tense. She was still very mad at me. Lots of resentment, obviously. I was angry at her for her reaction at my party, but at least we managed to remain civil and kept the topic solely on our parents to make sure they don't try to pull something like this again. We agreed neither of us will be in each other's lives, her issues with Keith and me not wanting to exclude him as he's a big part of my life, and agreed that we both needed to speak to them together to get that point across. When we met up with them, we told them they're gonna have to accept that this is how it's going to be. Do holidays and celebrations like we've done them before, separate, one of us not attending, or showing up after the other has left. And they are not allowed to push us into talking, ambush us the way they did again, or that'll result in losing us both permanently. In the end, they seem to have got it. At least they apologized, and that was that. My sister and I went our separate ways. Does it absolutely suck? Yes, but that's where life's taken us. At least now neither of us have to worry too much if we're going to get tricked into a meeting again, at least I hope not. Oh, one thing I wanted to address, my son. I did see a few comments concerned if Keith heard what she said or not, or maybe he pretended not to. I kinda hope that he just didn't, since I didn't see a reaction, but thanks for pointing that out. In case he did, I didn't want him internalizing that. Unfortunately, yes, he did hear. We had a whole conversation several nights ago alone. He didn't want to admit at first he heard her, but you can tell from the kids. This heavy stuff never gets easy explaining to a kid. Best I could say was she was just angry, and angry people sometimes say mean things for no reason. But no matter what, he's family. He knows he's my boy and I love him and his brother does too. I'm glad he knows that. Glad people brought it to my attention. Glad to have gotten Reddit's support and wisdom. I appreciate it so much. Not a perfect ending where everyone got along, but at least now boundaries have been drawn and less chances of this happening again. Not the idiot. I'm glad you were able to have an in-depth discussion with your son. Definitely keep your boundaries up and watch for any self-hate talk. I don't belong with you talk just in case. The way you handled your parents with your sister was kind of amazing. Truce to deal with this topic. Your parents' behavior, tricking both of you, and then stay away from me. Not the idiot. Your kids are very lucky to have a mature, compassionate father like you. I'm sorry you're going through this, but just know your kids will thank you one day for having their back and loving them unconditionally. Am I the idiot for not siding with my parents who are trying to force my brother to have a baby? My brother and my sister-in-law have been married for 6 years. I love them both dearly. They adopted a little girl about a year ago. My parents were happy about this too, at first. They got really angry when my brother and sister-in-law announced recently that their daughter would be their only child, and they do not want biological kids. My mom and dad lost their poop. They told my brother he had to get my sister-in-law pregnant. He was the family's male heir and he would have to have a biological son to carry forward the family name. This makes no sense to me, nor my bro and sister-in-law. It's not as if we're a family of European royalty. Who gives a frick about the family name in this day and age? Well, my parents apparently do. They've been berating my brother and guilt-tripping my sister-in-law, making her feel like she's taking something away from our family. On one occasion, they actually suggested that my brother leave my sister-in-law if she didn't want to get pregnant and have a son with another woman. What's even worse is that they've stopped paying attention to my niece. Earlier, they would call and talk to her almost every day, but ever since they were told about my bro and sister-in-law's decision, they've stopped calling her. This pisses me off and has deeply saddened my bro and sister-in-law. The child is 3 years old and doesn't deserve this kind of treatment. Yesterday, when I called my brother, he seemed very upset. He told me that mom and dad had called him and they had talked about something unrelated. When he asked if they wanted to talk to their granddaughter, they said they'd talk to their real grandchild when my brother came to his senses and decided to give them one. I was angrier than I've been in a long time. I called my parents and unloaded on them. I told them how selfish and cruel they were and how dare they take out their anger on my niece, along with a lot of other things I can't even remember. My mom started crying as she's not used to being yelled at. I understand that yelling at them may have been a bit much, but I just can't believe how awful they are towards a kid. So am I the idiot? Or are they? Edit. Some people have been wondering how my parents would act when I have kids. No need to worry about that since I won't be having any. I made this clear to my parents years ago and yes, they threw a fit over this. Update. It's been 4 weeks since I posted the original story. Since then, my parents have tried to rally our relatives, uncles, aunts, cousins, and our grandparents to gang up on my brother and sister-in-law to pressure them to have a biological child, preferably male. However, their plan has failed miserably. Most of the relatives told them they were being crazy. Cousins repeated some of the things that I had said to them. Uncles and aunts told them even if they did want a biological grandson, there was no excuse for the way they were treating my niece. Even my grandparents, who are quite old-fashioned, admonished them for their behavior. My brother has banned them from his home. I've banned them from mine. This ban will stay in place until they start treating my niece like their granddaughter, i.e., the way she deserves to be treated. I feel like my grandparents shunning my niece hurts even more because when she first became a part of the family, they appeared to love her. They would speak to her on the phone, play with her when they visited. But all of that stopped when they found out that my brother and sister-in-law won't be having any biological kids. They just rejected a little girl for no fault of her own. Not the idiot. If your brother really wants to nail it home, he can take his wife's last name. Pay to file the papers and change it legally. No last name. Done. I'm seriously glad that you and your family have stood up to your parents. Their behavior is abominable and they should be ashamed. Not the idiot. Good on you. I don't want bio kids because I would rather adopt or foster. It's important to me and I can't imagine my parents treating me like this. The idea that only the men in the family can pass on genes is ridiculous and old-fashioned. And I do not want the name to die out, but your niece has their last name, yes. So again, why does it matter? Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for asking my dad if he chose his new family over me? My parents divorced 3 years ago because my dad had an affair and the lady got pregnant and he left us to be with her and the kid. My sister and I hate him, but our mom still wants us to have a relationship with him, so we see him once or twice a month to make her happy. My sister and I turned 16 on Saturday, twins. We had a party in the park with our aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents from both sides of the family. We all wore masks. The only person who didn't come was my dad. He came over yesterday to drop off our present. I swear it was made for an 8-year-old. This was at BTW, and said that he was sorry that he couldn't come to our birthday and that he was busy. He lost his job in May and has been sitting on his ass playing video games since because nobody's hiring, so I know he wasn't working. I asked him exactly why he couldn't come to our birthday and he just said that he was busy, so I looked at him and asked if the reason he missed our 16th birthday was because he wanted to be with his other family instead. He left without saying anything and I've been banned from their house for being rude. Am I the idiot for asking my dad if he missed my and my sister's birthday because he'd rather be with his other family? Edit. He hates it when we call them his other family because he wants us to think of them as our family. He even tried for a while to get us to call his new wife Mom. Update. The visits with my dad have stopped. Instead, we spend those weekends with our grandparents, which is way better. My sister and I returned the dresses. My sister bought a jacket that she liked and I got shoes and makeup. When my dad found out that my sister and I weren't visiting anymore, he got mad. He said he didn't mean it when he said I was banned and I need to have a relationship with my brother and sister. Yes, this was how my dad decided to announce that his wife is pregnant. He also thought that would be the right time to tell us that our sister would need our room, so when we visit, we'd take the couch. He also wanted 50/50 custody. When our mom heard that he's giving away our room and wants to go to court for more custody, she lost it. She screamed at him about how irresponsible and selfish he is and told him that he'd be laughed out of court if he tried to get custody without us even having a bedroom there. I think he's still trying to go to court, but my sister and I don't like him and don't want to stay there anymore, and we don't have a room, so there's pretty much zero chance we're gonna have to stay there. Also, my mom introduced me and my sister to her boyfriend the other day and he seems great. He really wants to get to know some and my sister individually, something my dad didn't even care to do, and he's so nice to us and my mom. They're talking about him moving in a few months. So, even though my dad's a prick, I guess this story still has a happy ending. Not the idiot. Glad there's some happy ending there and he would be laughed out of court. Why force a 16-year-old to share a room with a 2-3-year-old? No judge would be happy with that. Plus, you and your sis are 16, you can decide your own custody. Not the idiot. God, your dad sounds like the most embarrassing idiot ever. He doesn't even work and sits around playing video games all day, and that other woman desperately wanted to nab him. Good riddance. I'm so glad things worked out for the better for you guys and your mom. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for not financially helping family and friends even thought I could? My son Nick was born with a congenital heart defect 17 years ago. It required a $60,000 surgery in Israel if he was to survive past 12 months. I've spent the first 3 months of his life running around, begging people and searching for money. My parents gave us $100, they had well-paying jobs and guaranteed state pensions. When I asked my brother for help, he mumbled something about needing to save for his daughter's college. She never went. By the way, anyone who met her could have told him that much. They did take regular vacations overseas though. My department of 40 at work donated $30 and a card. At one point I was seriously searching for ways to sell my kidney and liver. My in-laws sold their apartment for $35K. Best friend gave me another $7K, which was all he had. Accepting his help was one of the few times I cried in my adult life. I sold my car and every piece of furniture and electronics that wasn't bolted to the walls. My in-laws moved in, and we've spent the next 5 years living together, 5 people, crammed into a 2-bedroom. Surgery was a success. As fate has it, I started a hustle and it took off. After years of hard work, I moved our HQ to a Central European country to be closer to our EU clients. Even discounting about 2/3 of my wealth that is tied up in the business, I am a multimillionaire. My in-laws now have a 4-bedroom house. We pay for them to go on vacations 3-4 times a year, or did before 2020. My son is a hard worker who makes me a very proud father. I can't say that I hate those who didn't help back in the day. Hate is a strong word. Rather, I feel like I've learnt my lesson and don't expect anything from them. I don't invite my parents for visits. They are welcome to pay for their flights and a hotel room, but I won't cover their expenses like I do with the in-laws. My brother asked for a loan to start his business 5 years ago. I said the time wasn't right. 2 months ago his daughter got into a car accident. Drunk driving. Nothing seemingly life-threatening, but a lot of nasty scarring on her legs that require a costly cosmetic surgery. I suggested he looks into downsizing, as I am focused on helping my kids get a good education. Old coworkers who wanted to join my business once it took off were told to apply through the regular process, except for my best friend. He's been my partner from the start, and I sleep better at night knowing we've got each other's backs. It comes without saying there have been lots of very unhappy people in my life. In our culture, you're expected to support your community and family. Do favors. Nepotism is very much an ingrained thing. You're supposed to bring over your family if you're lucky enough to root yourself in the Western world. Help friends emigrate. My parents told me to my face they are ashamed of me and how the Western culture has changed me. I've been called many things, way worse than an idiot and heartless. After hearing my story, tell me Reddit, am I though? Edit. To those wondering why my parents had a pretty lukewarm response, if you can even call it that, the surgery had a 40% success rate. They thought we should let nature run its course and instead try for a new baby. It may sound horrendous to Westerners, but it's not that cold of a statement to someone in our home country. But obviously wife and I didn't take it well. Update. So, it's been a couple months. I have learnt my lesson not to ask 17-year-old kids on Reddit questions about real life and made some decisions, haha. First, a lot of you did make valid suggestions that I took to heart. I spoke to my parents candidly about why I distanced myself from them. They were clearly ashamed, and I think it's that shame and pride that kept them from reaching out and apologizing years ago. My mom kept her face covered with her hands for most of the call. She was clearly sad. Anyway, I ended up telling them I would never want to see them go destitute, so if they are in poor health or need help with the basic necessities, I'm obviously a call away. Otherwise, things have stayed the same. Next, about my niece. Here's where I disagree strongly with most Redditors. She's a 20-something girl who made a tremendously stupid mistake. She took down a pole driving drunk and will pay for that with her physical appearance and health for the rest of her life. It could have been worse. Thankfully, that's all it was. I talked to her, and as a first step we paid for her initial scar treatment, some silicone dressings, steroid injections to improve the healing. They can't do the removal surgery until they heal properly and things settle down, so it could be another 6 months to a year before they reassess. She asked if I can also help her find a rehab. She wants to pay for it herself. She admitted to having a problem, and I won't go into why she started drinking, but I hope none of the haters have the same reason to turn to a bottle. I also told my brother that he's got a year to come up with half the cost of her surgery. If he doesn't come through, we'll have a conversation, but I think the fire is lit under his ass, and I'm covering half for sure. I'll remind people we aren't prosecutors and judges, so when it comes to moral judgments, we should do what we believe is right. I stand by my choices to keep my family at an arm's length but not let them fall into poverty if it comes to it, and I support my niece's attempt to better herself. Not the idiot. I think you handled this all really well, but the point that sticks out to me is how you have handled your niece. I'm so glad that you reached out and talked to her about what happened and why, rather than just accepting that she's stupid. Clearly, she felt comfortable enough with you to discuss her addiction and trauma, and this could potentially be something that saves her life later on. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for allowing my wife to wear expensive jewelry to dinner and subsequently embarrassing my bill? For starters, I absolutely adore my wife. She's my rock and has been an infallible beacon of light for me this year. I lost my job at the beginning of the year, and when things got tough she buckled up, got a part-time job to help us stay afloat, and didn't have a single negative thing to say about it all. I finally got back on my feet again and wanted to do something nice for my wife once things settled down. She's a classic girly girl and loves to dress up, go out, etc. We really cut back this year, so when our finances felt stable, I wanted to splurge on something special for her. I bought her a diamond necklace, nothing too extravagant. We just got out of financial straits. I'm not turning around and blowing money I don't have. It's a single solitaire diamond that IMO was classy and elegant, but something she could wear on the daily. Cue to Thanksgiving dinner, and my wife wears the necklace to dinner. Her sister-in-law, her brother's wife, I'll call her Mary, notices the necklace and compliments my wife on it. My wife happily tells her how it was a surprise, and Mary agrees that it was a super sweet sentiment. Compliments me on my choice, and overall the family thought it was a nice gift, especially knowing that we went through hard times. A few days after dinner, I received a text message from the brother-in-law calling me an off for using Thanksgiving dinner to show off and make it all about me. He said that I shouldn't have let my wife wear such flashy jewelry to dinner and upstage everyone else, and that it was super selfish and conceited of us. I was stunned, to be honest, because the necklace discussion only lasted several minutes, maybe 5 minutes 10, and the rest of the family only had nice things to say about it. They seemed genuinely happy for me and my wife. I'm starting to feel like an awe because it's true that the family isn't incredibly well off, and something like my wife's necklace would be seen as something very luxurious. My brother-in-law says that I'm now putting pressure on him to get his wife something extravagant for Christmas. On the other hand though, I don't feel like it's really my responsibility to care about how brother-in-law feels about a gift I got for my wife, and that if he feels pressure it's not on me. I don't know, was I the idiot for talking about the gift during dinner? Update. Thank you to everyone for giving me the confidence to move forward with the situation. There were a few questions in my last post regarding how my wife, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law were involved in the situation that I wanted to shed some light on. Unfortunately, the outcome isn't the best. The first thing I want to clear up is that brother-in-law is, in fact, my wife's brother. Secondly, the allow comment regarding my wife's choice in dress was from my brother-in-law. I have no interest or power in dictating what my wife chooses to wear regardless of the occasion. Thirdly, while I won't reveal the cost of the necklace, I can assure everyone that it was in a reasonable price range that definitely wouldn't turn any heads if worn out running errands, but was still special enough to my wife and myself. I initially wanted to keep the text messages from my wife in fear that it would sour the sentiment behind the necklace, but we're not the type to keep secrets from each other. When she read the text, she was 553. I've never seen her so upset, especially at family. She immediately called her brother and just reamed him out for his insensitivity. We were on the phone together, but I didn't really pipe up once they started arguing since I felt like they should work it out as siblings. They got in a long argument and her brother said he was worried that she was going down a slippery slope of becoming a superficial bitch, and that we shouldn't force our financial success on other people. That comment honestly shocked the both of us, because while they weren't close growing up, he's never talked to her like that before. At that point, my wife told her brother that if he wasn't going to be happy for her, that she had one thoughtful treat from her husband after a really shitty year, then she had nothing to say to him. A few hours later, my wife did get a text from sister-in-law. Apparently she also heard the conversation and was mortified. She at least reassured us that she was happy for our success after working so hard and that she'd try to talk some sense into her husband, brother-in-law. Regardless, my wife and I decided to spend Christmas without brother-in-law and his wife. We'll be doing it separately on Christmas Eve with her parents. At this point, there's just too much tension, and I didn't want to risk brother-in-law ruining Christmas because I wouldn't put it past him to find the gifts we get her family too luxurious and pitching a fit in response. Her parents are staying out of the situation for the time being but okay with meeting us separately, and I respect their decision. And this might make me off, but I'm going to take some advice from a few commenters and get my wife a nice matching bracelet for Christmas. Edit. I didn't include this before because my brother-in-law didn't concretely admit to anything, but my wife speculates that her brother's behavior is due to a competitive nature. She said that he's always loved winning, even as a child. During my rough patch he started coming around to help out, but now I'm starting to feel like it just gave him some sort of twisted satisfaction to see me failing. Not the idiot. Get your baby anything she wants. Go ahead, y'all worked hard for your money, so you know where y'all deserve to play hide a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. This was a great update. Your wife's brother need to take a cue from you and get the stick out of his ass and get it together.